Assalamu Alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Gamers Podcast, episode number 2. We got a pretty cool episode lined up for everyone here. Thank you for those that are tuning in and those that have also checked out our previous episode. For this episode, we have a pretty fully stacked panel here, along with whatever cat's meowing over there.
That's
Uh,
mine.
so so we'll
That's
start
one of the
off.
guests.
We'll start off with myself. My name is Faraj. We have Abdul, aka Baba Blood Money, one of the founders, if not the founder of Muslim Gamers. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And we have Nael. Assalamu alaikum, Nael.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. And we have a couple of newcomers, although they're not newcomers to Muslim Gamers because they're actually a couple of mods. In fact, one of them is an admin. We'll start out with Jeff here.
My name is Jeff.
Thank you for that. I am not the admin, just for the record. But what is up,
Just a
guys? My
measly
name
mod.
is my name is Jeff. Some know me as Jeff the Chef, and it's a pleasure to be here on the podcast.
Pleasure to have you here, Jeff. And last but not least, we have Laughing Man. I'll cut it right there. Go ahead.
Thanks for the
Assalamu alaikum,
intro.
laughing man.
Walaikum salam. It's good to be here. Howdy.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. How is everyone doing on this wonderful evening that we're recording?
It's a little bit hot, but it's
It's
all right.
past my
Alhamdulillah.
bedtime, but I'm doing well.
Yeah,
Trying,
'cause you're
trying to stay away.
Sacrifice the sleep for this podcast, man.
Yeah, the things we
You're
do
the
for
dedication.
NG, right?
You're the one odd man out in the odd time zone compared to the rest of us here in
Yeah.
normal land. But
But if
You
MG
just-
taught me anything as being a mod, it's sleep is for the weak, and that's not by choice. It's just what we have to do, unfortunately.
Alternatively,
You're
we
on-
could just
you're on
convince
call.
Jeff to move to the West Coast.
I-
And solves the problem.
West Coast, best
know what?
coast, man.
I think it's a 4 against 1 vote here, Jeff. So
I don't think you'll see me
through.
there anytime soon.
Why not? You got family there.
I do. But I have a wife here, unfortunately, as well. So I have to stay on the East
Bring your
Coast
wife with
for now.
you. Like, what's it?
Yeah, the thing is,
Listen.
I love California. Like, for real talk, it is one of my favorite places to visit. I actually was planning to move there, but then sort of marriage came in the way between it. I was in a transitionary period to move to the West Coast, but I guess Allah had different plans for me at the moment.
I think both Abdul and I convinced our wives to move from the East Coast to here.
Really?
So if we could do it.
Me too.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, Midwest.
Yeah. Laughing Man, you're the only one left.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm a single bachelor. What can I say?
That means
AKA
he's
the lucky
available.
one out of his.
Perfect.
True,
for
I do
MG.
have a lot of free time.
Oh man, this is already going amazingly well. So as we're going to switch up the format for this episode a little bit compared to the last one. Normally we start out going into the news a little bit and then talk about what we're playing, and then kind of get into our quote unquote topic of the episode. And this one we'll jump into our topic a little bit soon. Jeff kind of already alluded to that a little bit about what's been giving him most of his sleepless nights. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and jump into the news. We have like a 1 month gap in between both of our between our episodes, so quite a lot has happened since we last recorded. Abdul, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. First news. It's a little bit interesting, but since Microsoft has now acquired Activision Blizzard, everyone was kind of wondering on what they would do with COD when it released, and turns out COD is going to be day one on Game Pass.
Pretty exciting.
That's pretty huge. I don't know. Like, I don't know how many people play COD here, but it's like one of the highest selling games of the year. It brings in
You can't deny its
extreme
impact.
amounts of money, and it's going to be day one on Game Pass, meaning you don't have to pay the $70 premium to buy it. You can play it for $10 for the month. That's insane. It's like, to me, that's like, pretty much Microsoft saying they're going all in on Game Pass, right? They're sacrificing their day one revenue for like a hope for longer gain subscribers from COD, which I find very interesting. Yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
There was talk initially with a couple of months ago with the whole Microsoft exclusives going multi-platform. There was a lot of chaos of like, oh no, is Microsoft going to stop making Xbox consoles and stuff? And then you have the shutdown of Tango, Tango GameWorks, and a bunch of other studios. And it is
Arcane
kind of
Austin.
Arcane Austin, yeah. It is kind of surprising that COD is going day one Game Pass because there were some whisperings, rumors behind the scenes that there was debates on whether COD would be day one Game Pass or not. And the fact that they're going all in on Game Pass, it does. I'm not entirely sure what direction Microsoft's going, but it does seem like they're going in the direction of making more software than focusing on hardware because Sony does outsell them in the console market with PlayStation. And then Nintendo's in its own ecosystem. Nobody competes with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because when, at least for me, when I first heard about Microsoft buying Activision, I was like, oh, Microsoft can now influence Activision Blizzard to do things better. But it kind of, now that we're hearing all this things, all this like changing that's going on in Microsoft, it's kind of Activision Blizzard influencing Microsoft on how they're doing things. Seems like they're going to go multi-platform for a lot of their stuff. They don't really seem to be want to support first-party stuff anymore and their consoles. It just seems, it's very interesting. I don't know what Microsoft's thinking.
I mean, when you think about it, why would they restrict their sales to only within their ecosystem when at the end of the day, all the revenue they're still making from other platforms?
Yeah, but I mean, Game Pass subscriber growth has stalled, right, for a while. It's not like it's giving a huge return for them. And they've closed studios that probably shouldn't be closed. Tango Works.
But
I don't know, it's
potentially in the next 2-3 years, we could be seeing what basically happened with the stream wars, right? Where everyone was just subsidizing themselves. That's why we had very cheap, subscription costs, and that's why we could have such large libraries, and it could start breaking up. Costs could start going up. Could go either way.
I think there were already some rumors that the price for Game Pass was going to go up a little bit too. So it's only natural that with inflation we're gonna see that within the next 2 to 3
Well,
years.
it's not just inflation. It's just how modern businesses kind of operate with lean startup styles, where it's like, okay, offer it at a discount, and then give the real price once you have the subscription base, user base, and then you can kind of absorb the loss of people who are going to unsubscribe when they kind of, it's too expensive for them.
There's also rumors that unless there's evidence, I don't hold a lot of value to them. I take them with a grain of salt, but it's interesting to think about. A lot of people think that when Microsoft, I forget the name of the current CEO, since he took hold, he's been trying to push cloud, and he's trying to kind of go away more from making game consoles, which has kind of affected Xbox, Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, and I forget the other woman. She's the other Xbox executive. And because of him, he's trying to push away from gaming because I don't know if you guys know this, but console developers, they sell consoles at a loss. PlayStations, Xboxes, they don't make any profit. They sell them at a loss because the way they see it is people who buy the console will then dip into their other software products. So if you buy a PlayStation, you'll buy PSN. That's where the crux of their money comes from. And if you buy PSN, you'll be part of their ecosystem. You might buy more DualSense controllers, headphones. So same thing with Xbox and Microsoft. But like Abdul mentioned, Microsoft's kind of it looks like they don't care about first party exclusives. They're slowly bringing all of their stuff to multi platforms. I expect in maybe a couple of months, maybe a year, Starfield will probably be on PlayStation, Hellblade 2 as well. So, yeah.
PlayStation fans can be disappointed about Starfield as we were.
Well, when you think about it, Sony's kind of doing the same thing I know they announced that there's going to be 2 co-CEOs of for under the PlayStation umbrella, which I think is going to go amazingly well. They already said that for most, or not most, every single player PlayStation exclusive is going to be basically a timed exclusive, where at least for like a year or so it's going to be only available and playable on PlayStation, and then after that you could probably buy it on on PC or maybe even elsewhere.
They've
Whereas
been
for their
testing
live
it.
service games, yeah,
They've been testing it on different games, like I think Harry Potter, right? There was one that they tested it on. It was locked.
now I'm talking about their first party exclusives like God of War.
No,
Yeah.
but they've been testing it on other games too, right? Where they lock it to their console, even non-first party. They'll lock it to their
Harry
console.
Potter was multi. You're talking about Hogwarts Legacy. That was multi.
No,
I think there was some
Yeah.
DLC.
You're talking about,
that
you're
way.
talking
I'm
about Ghosts of Tsushima?
Oh, there was
God
a
of
War.
quest. There was a quest in Hogwarts
Mhm.
Legacy that was PlayStation exclusive. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're referring to.
Yes, but no, I'm talking about Abdul's game, the one that he mentioned.
No,
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just came out.
Yeah, that's also first party.
first party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've been doing that where they're testing different kinds of locks and releases.
Yeah, the
So-
CEO, he mentioned that multiplayer live service stuff, so like Helldivers, that's going to
Mhm.
come on PC and PlayStation day one, but the single player stuff is going to be timed. And that was another thing I wanted to like talk with you guys about today. His philosophy was that, oh, we're going to do timed exclusive so that it entices PC players to dip into PlayStation for the sequels. But aside from a couple of people I know who are loaded and have a lot of free time, most people I know who have expensive gaming PCs only game on that. They don't
Yeah.
buy a PlayStation.
Yeah, PlayStation's going to learn that the hard way. That's their philosophy. PC gamers not going to move to PlayStation just for a sequel. They're going to wait to get the game on PC.
maybe they learned their lesson trying to get everyone on PSN.
I'm still on the hopium for Bloodborne, getting a remaster and coming to PC.
I doubt. I think that ship has sailed.
I think you're gonna keep hoping for a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
you say that, but 10 years ago, if you told me Persona, Shin Megami Tensei were all coming to PC, I would have laughed at you.
But they're not first party games.
For a while, they were locked to a console.
They
Shin
were
Megami
locked
Tensei-
Yeah.
to the game console.
but it
Just like
wasn't
Square
under the
Enix games
Sony
are locked
umbrella.
to the console, but they're not
Mhm.
first party games. They're not PlayStation developers.
I mean,
Which is a
we'll
good-
see.
That's just whatever contract
Yeah.
they've had with them for like the last 30
Which is a good
years.
segue. Square Enix, by the way, going multi-platform. Super hyped for that.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. I mean,
Yeah.
if Rebirth is any indication, I think what was it? The sales for Final Fantasy Rebirth weren't like meeting whatever goals Square Enix had set, and of course,
And
it's
16.
not a cross-platform, and 16 as well, because both of them weren't cross-generational. They weren't available for both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. They were only available on the PS5, and there aren't as many PS5s out there as compared to maybe the combined number of PS4 and PS5. So it didn't beat the numbers that Final Fantasy VII Remake did.
Yeah, there was an article that said only if you take the PlayStation player base, only half of them are on like have a PS5. The majority of people still have PS4s. And the news that the next COD game is going to be available on PS4 annoyed a lot of people because the fact that they're making it for PS4 means that it's still holding the console generation back because the new COD game won't take advantage of like, the features that the next gen, the current gen console has. And then people are going to be like, well, why would I buy a PS5 when I can play the next COD on my PS4? Which I think the only game that will force people to move will be the upcoming GTA 6, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I still have a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I haven't got
Same
a
here.
PS5.
I mean, getting the 4 and the 5 were such a hurdle for a lot of people. It was so hard. So it's not surprising that like they're still struggling with trying to figure out what console to launch on.
If I can share, at the time when I could afford to buy a PS5, it was unavailable. And now that it's available everywhere, I have a second kid, so all that extra money is
Yeah,
going
man.
in diapers.
Kids
but
are so expensive.
Yeah, I feel like multi-platform is going to be the way to go now. I feel like we're no longer in the age of expecting console exclusives because
Except Nintendo doing Nintendo things.
Nintendo's still stuck
They
on,
can get away with it. They play by
I
their own
mean,
rules.
the time they put the Nvidia Tegra on the Switch, it was already out of date. Yet the Switch has been selling like it's been making everybody else look like trash.
Oh yeah,
At least based on sales numbers alone, just because they do a thing particularly well. So
no.
And if the rumors of the next Nintendo, the Switch console, are true, because based on what I've heard, it will have a form. It's not spec wise. It's not going to be up to the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, but it's going to be like somewhere between the PS4 Pro and between the PS5. Which that in a handheld console, I think that's pretty impressive. And the thing that stands out to me is supposedly it'll have DLSS. So if it has DLSS, then like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, sure they're first party games for the Switch, but they don't run at a consistent 30 frames. They, go down a lot. And I think
there's a reason why Yuzu was popular.
That we don't talk about Yuzu. You want to get this podcast Nintendo Ninja. I think part of why Nintendo's able to flourish is the average casual Nintendo fan, the normie Nintendo fan. They don't care about frame rates. They don't care about like performance really. What do they play? They play Mario. They play Animal Crossing. They play the Zelda.
They just want a fun game.
They just play the Pokemon. The what is it? What's that new? The Paper Mario 1000-Year Door that came out recently.
Yes,
It runs at 30 frames, even though the original GameCube version ran at 60. But most Nintendo fans, they don't care about frames. They're just like, oh, it's fun, it's shiny, it has Mario, it has Yoshi. That's all they care about. And Nintendo, they've existed for like what, almost 100 years, and they've created these fun characters that are household names. Like my parents who don't know anything about pop culture, they know who Mario is, who Yoshi is. They know what Pokemon is. So
yeah, they have they have some of the most profitable video game IPs.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon is like the highest grossing gaming IP, aside from Grand Theft Auto 5.
Not just gaming, it's the highest grossing IP, period.
Yeah.
It even beats Disney, freaking Mickey Mouse. Like, think about that. Pokemon beats the mouse.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we got
So much
Nintendo
potential.
World coming along.
So much potential. And nothing to show for it, except for the trash Pokemon games.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Oh yeah, we could. Yeah, okay. This is it's a little bit of my forte. I love reading about history, like niche history, in my spare time. And yeah, there's been a lot of controversy over Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, for those unaware, it's going to have two playable protagonists. You have Naui, who's supposed to be the more stealthy character, and you have Yasuke, who's going to be the samurai, who's the more brute force, like non-stealthy character. This isn't the first time Assassin's Creed has had, two protagonists. In Syndicate, you have the two twins, Jacob
twins.
and yeah. Now the controversy is over Yasuke being a black character, and Yasuke is an actual historical figure. In Japan, Japan had contact with African nations, Mozambique, Ethiopia, etc. And he was a former slave who then, in Japan, became a retainer for the then feudal lord. And the controversy is over... There's been a lot of hype for a Japan Assassin's Creed game for years. We finally get it, and a lot of people on the internet, they're like, why is it a black character? This is Ubisoft giving in to the DEI, which, if you don't know what that means, stands for diversity, exclusion, and I forget what the acronym means, but a lot of people, they're like, this is Ubisoft giving into the woke mob, pandering, all of these things, etc.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted there. It's diversion, equity, and inclusion.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. There you go. Yeah. So, and some of the people leading this, I don't know if you followed the Stellar Blade drama where the final release of the game had one of Eve's costumes be slightly less skimpy. So a lot of people, they started a whole petition, hashtag uncensor free Stellar Blade. So these same crowds of people are angry about
How much more
Yasuke.
free do they want it to be?
Gamers, am I right?
I don't want to get without going.
We're not
going
going to talk about this. We already talked about this
We
last
talked
episode.
about it.
Yeah,
we
we
already
went
talked about
into-
last episode.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the same people leading this charge. Now, here's what's interesting. These people are all like generally like people living in the West. If you look on Japanese social media, there were a couple of TikTok videos and Twitter posts from Japanese users. They're all excited. One of them even said, "Oh wow, they picked Yasuke. He's a very anime-like protagonist." Because if you read Yasuke's story, it's almost like he came from like nothing and he became this important kind of niche historical figure. And in Japan, people know about Yasuke. They teach him in history classes. In a lot of JRPGs, I don't know if you guys know what Fate Grand Order is. It's one of those gacha games. He appears as one of the unlockable characters that you can have. And they have a whole, it's not really historically accurate, but like a mech anime with Yasuke like piloting like a Gundam suit and going to war. So they're very familiar with him. And there was a lot of debate like, oh, Yasuke's not a real samurai, he's a retainer. Look up what a retainer is. It's a type of samurai. And there was one TikTok video where a Japanese woman who also speaks English, she broke down what retainer in the Japanese language means. So I just find it really hilarious that the Western fans are being outraged on behalf of Japanese fans, but the actual Japanese fans, they're all excited. They're like, oh my god, yay, Assassin's Creed set in Japan. Yasuke, what a cool character. This is exciting. So, it's just all this outrage is kind of a loud vocal minority on the internet. I think once the game comes out, it's going to sell like hotcakes because one, that's what Assassin's Creed does. It's just like Call of Duty. It's one of those like popular franchises. And the casual person, the casual fan, they don't go online. They don't care about these controversies. They're just going to be like, oh, ninjas, samurai, Assassin's Creed. That's awesome.
Sign me up. I've not been a fan of the newer Assassin's Creeds. Like I did not play Valhalla. I looked it up, read some reviews, watched some gameplay, and I was like, this looks hella boring. But I'm probably gonna play Shadows just because of the setting and the character.
I did enjoy. I think Odyssey was probably my favorite of the more recent ones. Even though
I got bored of Odyssey. Like halfway
It
through,
is
I was like,
super long.
it's pretty
this
long.
is-
Yeah,
This is so boring.
yeah.
Like,
It was,
why do
it was
I?
fun to start, but it gets really grindy because I was
Mhm.
playing it a few months ago.
Yeah.
Origins. I was like, Origins is great, and then I was like, okay, it's super hyped for Odyssey, and then it just died, and then I didn't bother with Valhalla.
What's funny is Origins felt kind of grindy for me. I felt a little better about Odyssey, but I do like the character of Bayek, so that's definitely great. But I feel like most of the people, like the majority of people that are gonna buy Assassin's Creed Shadows, the main thing they're gonna have to complain about is the very possible in-game microtransaction store, rather than whatever all this fake outrage is about Yasuke. Which we in the West, we had time to get used to Yasuke. There's an anime on Netflix about Yasuke played by Lakeith Stanfield on there. So it's just like you said. It's not a coincidence that the same people complaining about Stellar Blade not being free enough are the people complaining about this. It's there's kind of a theme with the people that tend to complain about stuff like that, and it's unfortunate that they kind of take up a lot of the vocal space on the internet. It actually made me not want to check out the trailer just because it was like, I don't want to be reminded of all this conversation. That's how loud that conversation was. But I did finally check out the trailer. It looks pretty interesting. Probably not going to buy it day one because knowing Ubisoft, they're no disrespect to their QA team. I work in QA myself. I know it's not easy, but we've seen Unity. But yeah, I think that's definitely something to look forward to. I kind of wanted to go back a little bit on what we were talking about with Sony. Nael, I know you mentioned about how it'll probably be Sony will probably learn their lesson the hard way about forcing people to connect or link their accounts to PSN even if they're playing from PC. Because in the last episode we talked about how with Helldivers 2 democracy had won and that Sony was reversing their decision to force the linking. But I believe as of today, which is a month since we talked about that, and as Nael's cat walks across the camera, which is awesome, the game is still not available in all the countries where it's been delisted and where PlayStation Network is not available. So, and with all the newer releases like Ghost of Tsushima, is not purchasable in any of those countries, even though a huge majority of the game is completely single player. There
and it
is a
requires
multiplayer.
PSN.
Yeah, it requires PSN. Same thing with
Ragnarok.
with God of War Ragnarok as well. Completely single player game, requires PSN. I believe the new Until Dawn remaster that was announced as well is going to have the same requirements. So it's it does. I'm trying to think of it from
Okay.
Sony's point of view of like
It's
them,
just- it's
other
just
than
like
them just
The
collecting
next
that data.
stage of always online. It just right more opportunities for them to collect your data, more opportunities for them to just plug you into their network.
And to brag to shareholders, like, hey, look, PSN
That's-
numbers went up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's really the only reason. Like,
That has
why?
to be.
Why?
The reason.
Why do you need to be always online? Why do you need to always be connected to their network? It doesn't make sense on a single player game. It's just straight story. Like,
So, but does that, but based on what a Laughing Man said, does that mean we're gonna start seeing PSN available in all these countries now? Because there's a lot of
Doubt it.
people from those countries that purchase
Probably
these
not.
games as well.
So here's my slightly spicy take about the Helldivers 2 situation. I think it did, at the moment, everyone's like, yeah, democracy won. But I think it actually did more unintended harm, because previously, all those countries that got delisted, you could still purchase the game. You could still purchase Helldivers and play. And there was a workaround. I think PSN should be available in those countries, but the workaround was you just make an account, select whatever country. Okay, you live in Puerto Rico, just put
You
your region
basically
as...
lie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a workaround. But thanks to that Helldivers fiasco, now God of War Ragnarok, Ghost of Tsushima, forget PSN. If you live in those countries, it's not even available on Steam. So those people don't even have access to it. Whereas if this Helldivers fiasco didn't happen, those people I think it would have still been listed on Steam. And if it required PSN, those people could have just put up whatever region they wanted to. Yeah, I think it kind of backfired, in my opinion.
I'm not sure how much I
what
want to
are
agree
what
with
are the
that.
reasons why? What's the reason why these countries don't have PSN? I mean, it's kind of a sidebar, but what are the reasons? Like,
There's probably a lot of legality, kind of similar to that. I remember reading the story about how Vietnam put a ban on Steam because Steam wasn't adhering to their laws of not selling or not allowing sales of games that depict any kind of like gory violence. So I'm sure there has to be specific laws that apply to a lot of these countries.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah.
For
Okay.
most of these countries, if you look at the list, like it's 100 something, a lot of them are like third world countries. And so there's been speculation that from Sony's standpoint, opening PSN in those regions means investing time and money, but they don't see like they'll get like enough for return if they open up servers and allow people to make accounts. And so but then some of them, like Puerto Rico, is US territory. How the hell do they not have PSN? They're not a US state, but they're US territory. Same with the Virgin Islands and Guam and other places.
You know, based on what we're seeing right now, I feel like with the whole, because you mentioned that the Helldivers fiasco did more harm than good. They were going to force people to link PSN to play the game anyway by May 30th, until Sony reversed that decision. And seeing what they're doing with all of their current or the upcoming releases on PC, it looked like that decision to force people to link was already in place. I don't know if people complaining about that was what made Sony change their mind on it. I feel like they were already had their minds made up to force that linking anyway.
So Helldivers originally, from the very beginning, was going to have PSN required.
Right.
But the issue was the game was so popular, they were having server issues. So the CEO of Helldivers, he made an executive decision to not make PSN mandatory. And he even mentioned that he regrets doing that. And the plan was to, after servers calm down, slowly transition people into making a PSN account. But he also admits that he, as a CEO, should have been more communicative and transparent about that. Like, remind people, hey guys, we're having server issues, so we've lifted the requirement, but eventually you will have to. And he admits he didn't do a good job of, drilling that in, communicating with players. Like, he admitted his own fault. And it didn't help that one of the Helldivers community managers on Discord was kind of fed up, I guess, and he was telling people, yeah, it's out of our control.
Yeah, review bomb it.
Go review bomb, the Steam store and go complain to Sony, which that didn't exactly, when you're the community manager, you don't want to exactly publicly.
Yeah, dude, he got fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like kind of a political thing where they had to make it make it look like they were writing things in the eyes of Sony.
Exactly.
The way I'm looking at it, if that requirement was there from the get-go, why even sell the game in countries where PSN isn't available on Steam is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I feel like there was a huge, well, if they weren't even going to play it from the get, if the
who cares
idea
if they're going to play
the
it? They bought them a game. They give that cut.
Which is why they went with the decision now to completely delist it, so it then, like, basically they can wash their hands.
Probably doesn't have to deal with the refunds and everything too.
Yeah. And Steam did say, I initially thought Steam delisted the game themselves because of all the refunds, but then a Steam community manager did confirm that nope, that wasn't their decision. Sony actually asked them to delist the game. That was on Sony. So, yeah. So all of this is basically Sony kind of figuring out the PC space. There's been some rumors that Sony wants to make their own PC launcher, although I don't know if I kind of doubt that, because people hate downloading another launcher and making a whole account. And given with the Helldivers fiasco, I don't think they're going to even attempt that. I think they're just gonna.
I feel
Steam.
like I want to push back on that and say they might do it because they could try competing with Game Pass by doing that.
In my opinion, I don't know how much financial sense it would make for Sony if they haven't already started developing an app like that for PC as a launcher, to begin developing something like that when there's already services like Steam and Epic that are there.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, you would think that, right? But we just saw what happened in the streaming wars.
So what you're saying, because we're thinking logically and they're operating without logic.
They're not operating with logic. They're operating with corporate greed.
But then that could also backfire because, like, it used to be called Origin, then they called it EA Play, now it's called EA App. It used to be you wanted to play Dragon Age Inquisition, you wanted to play, like, EA games, you had to get it on PC, you had to download their launcher.
Yes.
Eventually, all of those games came on Steam, and now it's optional if you want to get it on Steam or you want to get it on the app. So,
is there any game, sorry to cut you off, Laughing Man, but is there any EA game that if you purchase it on Steam doesn't force opening the EA app anyway?
All of them require it, but most casual Steam users, they want to have everything on one launcher. So even if it requires opening up that app, some of them I think don't. I think Mass Effect, one of the games on Steam Deck, there was a workaround, like Valve inputted a thing where you don't have to necessarily open the EA app. It might have been Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I gotta look it up, but generally, yeah, you do have to open the app. But Bethesda tried to make their own launcher. If you wanted to play Fallout 76 and some other newer games,
that failed hard.
Yeah, and now everything's available on Steam. And Epic, they've been trying their own way of competing with Steam by, handing out those free games every month. But I'll tell you the only games I played on Epic. I mainly played them because they were given away for free. So this year, I played Control because Epic gave it away for free. and I played Alan Wake 2 because it came for free with my GPU, but it was only on the Epic Store. But if Alan Wake 2, which I really enjoyed, if Baldur's Gate 3 didn't exist, it would have been my game of the year for last year. But if I didn't get it for free, I probably wouldn't have purchased it on the Epic Store. I probably would have waited till it came on Steam, like with the Kingdom Hearts collection. Now I'm thinking of purchasing it because it's finally coming to Steam.
Don't do it. It's a waste of time.
Which one? The
Damn.
Kingdom Hearts collection?
Kingdom Hearts collection. Just Kingdom Hearts in general. You don't want to do it, man.
Damn,
You
did
don't wanna
Donald
do it.
did Goofy and Donald Duck like hurt you, betray you?
Dude,
like-
they hurt me bad. They hurt me bad.
Bro, it's so fun though. What are you talking about?
Listen. Huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Huge Kingdom Hearts fan.
He
Kingdom
waited
Hearts,
10 years and got disappointed, I'm guessing.
I waited 10 freaking. I was in high school when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. Kingdom Hearts 3, the most disappointing game I've ever played.
Fair enough.
Straight up trash.
Now, you ready to go through that again with Kingdom Hearts 4 news?
I don't know. I don't know if I can do it, man. I don't know if my heart can take it.
Fool me
I
once,
have so
shame
many
on
things to
me.
say about that game, but we need to move on.
Watch
Other
his kids
things.
grow up and pick up Kingdom Hearts.
No. If I hear that music, my kid's going out the door.
Okay, hold on. Whatever you say, Utada Hikaru's simple.
Oh, dude, it's
clean,
it's
come
amazing.
on. You
I
can't.
still
You
listen
cannot.
to it.
You can't diss that. She makes amazing.
I can't.
songs.
If they're just listening to it, the music, I'm fine. But if they pop up in the game, I'm like, dude, yeah, how badly do you want to feel hurt?
Heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
Knowing kids, they'll probably end up doing that just to test you. If you think they're testing you now
Wow.
as toddlers.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. I never really got into Kingdom Hearts as much. I only played the first one
Good for
back
you.
on PS2. I have the collection, I guess, on PS4. I don't. It just the first one I know hasn't really aged that well.
Don't worry about the story too much. It's all about the vibes. You're
No.
flying around. with
I got other
Goofy.
games to play for vibes, bro.
no,
Like,
bro. You only
yeah.
play Kingdom Hearts for the story. That's the whole reason.
What
you play the freaking
story,
game.
bro?
Listen,
Bro.
I play
You don't
Kingdom Hearts
understand.
because of how ridiculous it is. Hearing Goofy saying, "Oh no, Donald Duck, don't cast Zeta Flare again." Like, Donald Duck casting Zeta Flare, the most powerful spell in the universe, and Goofy being Goofy, going, "No, Donald Duck, you can't cast Zeta Flare."
But that's
a
what makes
game.
it funny.
That's
It's
it
about
is-
friendship.
It's a
Yeah.
game like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 were games that should not have worked or existed, but it worked so well and it did so good.
It had me
It's-
crying on the floor as a
The
child.
one
Dude,
reason my PlayStation 2 still runs
emotional
is so I
damage.
can play Kingdom Hearts again.
The controls have
I
not
don't
aged
think
well,
anything-
though.
I don't think anything beats Donald trying to say. I can't do a Donald voice, like him saying Sora when he's trying to heal you. Sora.
I
Every
would
3
try to do a
minutes.
Donald Duck impression, but that's the one I can't. I can do a slightly Mickey, do a pretty good Goofy, as you heard, but can't do Donald either.
You got to be like a 30-year smoker to imitate his voice.
There you go. Nael almost had it right there. Oh man. So it looks like Abdul's gonna need to probably do a little.
I'm going to need
watching of his
therapy
kids.
sessions
He
when
needs
Kingdom Hearts
therapy,
4
bro.
comes out.
Yeah, and making sure, like, I don't know, it'll really test your relationship with your kids and trying to like babysit them or watch over them. I was actually trying to transition into like try to bring up babysitting, but I don't know if that transition worked at all. That segue to talk more to talk to our mods here about what it's been like, kind of. Maybe not babysitting is the right word of like.
No, it's the right word.
Look, watching over, or maybe
Oh,
shepherding.
it's
I think
definitely the
shepherding-
right word. No. You're babysitting.
Babysitting, okay. Babysitting
Toddlers.
over shepherding, okay. But yeah, I'm really curious
Sometimes
as to. I'm really curious as to like what the responsibilities of a mod look like. I know it differs depending on, because I've heard of mods on Twitch chat and stuff like. I'm not as plugged in as most people think I am, or I don't even think people think I'm that plugged in at all. But when it comes to what a mod does, at least on a Discord server, what does it typically entail, and what have you learned, or what have you had to do for the Muslim Gamers server in general? Either of you guys can start first, Jeff or Laughing Man.
Jeff, we've been mostly talking, so you should start.
Yeah,
with
sure,
this one.
sure. I mean, to me, being a mod on MG, it's sort of different when you look at other servers that are non-Muslim focused. I guess like more of an Islamic server, because when you're looking at servers that are non-Islamic, you're a little bit more lenient when it comes to certain guidelines, upholding certain rules. But the thing that makes it tricky being a mod on MG is that you're still trying to adhere to Islamic guidelines while also forming a gaming community and bringing people together in that aspect for similar interests. So, well, we basically focus on a day to day. Is just making sure one, people are overall else feeling welcomed and included in the community, right? You don't want people who, and whether you're like a gamer who is seasoned 20, 30 years you've been gaming, or like you're someone who's just getting into gaming and you know nothing about PC versus console, etc. We want to cater to every sort of person when it comes to MG. And there's a big group of people who we cater to who don't game at all. They're just here for the social aspect of it. So that's, I think, something that MG offers that's really unique. So us as moderators, we sort of have multiple hats when it comes to these things, because not only do we have to be making sure that people aren't breaking like major Islamic guidelines, but they're also not breaking, you know, uh, having like bullying going on, or making someone feel other if they don't play certain games, or making fun of someone for having certain interests. So I would say in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, Laughing Man can definitely expand a bit more on it.
Yeah, Jeff pretty much summed it up nicely. And as for the day to day, it's kind of changed. Like when when I became admin and Jeff became a mod 4 years ago during peak lockdown pandemic, that was that was an experience. That was a little insane. A lot of figuring things out on the fly, on the go, because the server, which was like a couple hundred people, it just jumped overnight to 1,000 and then 2,000 people. VCs were popping, like you'd had people on sometimes 24/7 streaming, vibing. Yeah, it was like a learning experience, and we had to like, one of the difficult parts was adapting to the situation, and because we had a lot of younger people, so like minors come into the server, and some of them, and then on the server we have a lot of active people who are older folks, so there's a little bit of tension between the two crowds. And so a lot of that 4 years ago was trying to manage, basically mediate relations between people. I know the Discord, there's a lot of memes about Discord mods, like they're power trippy, no life, all of that
Never
stuff,
touch
and the
grass.
whole like stop posting
that's-
memes
I
in
thought that was you
general
guys.
again.
That's why I
Well-
picked you guys. Wait, hold on.
Well, only recently I started touching grass, so I think that's a good thing.
Dude, we gotta
That's-
demote him.
That's my secret. I have a house plant near my desk, so I can touch grass whenever I want.
It's not real.
But yeah,
Doesn't count.
damn it.
It's a succulent.
Hey, don't dish on succulents, man. But
It doesn't count if it's 3D printed. No.
I wish I had a 3D printer. But yeah, like, the whole like stereotype, like, oh my god, Discord mods, like, stop posting memes in general. Like, there was
It's
a little
wonderful
bit of
impression, by the
that.
way.
Oh yeah. Voice acting is one of my amateur hobbies. Thank you very much.
He got it from Kingdom Hearts.
not from King. I actually haven't played a Kingdom Hearts game because I never owned a console growing up.
Don't do it.
Yeah, but
We'll
one
see.
thing I do want to add, though, like going to the mod talk, I think a lot of people don't understand when you're, and this isn't just MG specific, and I'm sure some of you guys can relate, or even people listening, when you accept a position of leadership, no matter what you're doing, there's always going to come a lot of difficulty with it. It's not really a position that you should be desiring, because it's honestly, it could be really bad. In terms
So
of,
are you
yeah.
saying? Are you saying with great power
Comes great
comes
responsibility.
great
Yeah, I mean,
responsibility?
essentially.
No, so on that point, like I remember talking to Laughing Man when I was thinking about handing over the reins of moderatorship to somebody else, and I talked to Laughing Man, and I told, like, one of the things I told him, and I don't know if you remember this, I was like, look, if you take this, you're gonna lose all your friendships, pretty much all your friendships. Like you that's just how it is. Like, I have lost so many friends on MG that I thought were like really close friends of mine, and it just, I don't know what it is. You just can't keep a friendship.
No, I 100% echo that. And that was actually one of the reasons I remember talking to Abdul and Laughing Man about not wanting to be a moderator. I was so adamant. I was like, I do not want this position. I know what's going to happen. I just want to stay far away from it. And, after they're pestering over and over to get me in, I caved. And then,
Oh, I picked Jeff.
Yeah, my life was ruined after that. But it was
a little bit of Jeff lore. Don't worry, Jeff. I'm not going to roast you too much today, even though I disapprove of your eating habits. When Jeff first joined MG, this guy comes in. The first thing he's like, "Let's see how long it takes me to get banned." And him and his like cousin, they would like chat about the dumbest things, like random chats, like all like 4 a.m. It's like 4 a.m. their time. They're playing League and just shit posting and like having some weird bromance shit posting. And
those are great days.
Oh man, I missed that, Jeff. What happened to him?
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, that's the thing. Moderated, like, when I got the mod position, I fundamentally had to change that side of me. Like, I was still there, but like, I had to be different in front of people because you have a responsibility. So that's where, like a Blood Money said, like, you start losing.
There you go. It's like being a father, You gotta grow
and
up.
nobody wants to hang out with the uncle, right? Like Blood Money knows that. So like you start losing a lot of friends in the process because they're like, oh, you've changed, or why are you talking to me like this? So it becomes difficult navigating those relationships. And but I do say, like, I don't really, looking back, I don't like regret a lot of what has happened. There are obviously regrets I do have, but I think I'm very thankful for the friends I have now and who came out of it post moderation, and those people who stuck around with me. So I think it's a big blessing overall.
Yeah,
I probably should have asked. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I kind of echo what Jeff says. Yeah, part of the losing friendships thing, becoming a little more like, I wouldn't say I necessarily lost friendships, but things kind of changed. I don't think it's just the moderation, honestly. I think it's a combination of people getting older, having more responsibilities, so they can't be on MG as much anymore, play games or hang out as much anymore. But sometimes there were situations where people you're close to, get into a conflict with a stranger. And yeah, if your friend, you could just talk to them and be like, yo, come on, bro. Don't be a jerk. Don't do this. Don't do that. But that's not enough. Maybe sometimes they crossed a certain line, and it's not enough to just, give them a little pat on the back and have a little talk, because you have to be fair. You just because the person you're close to is a friend, you have to treat everything like equally and fairly, and that's where a lot of the tension and conflicts came in. But like Jeff, I wouldn't say I have overall regrets. Are there regrets of certain things with the wisdom that I have now I could have done differently? Oh, absolutely. Like, nobody's perfect. If anything, I look back on some of those tense times and I kind of laugh at the person I was, which it's funny considering my name, but I kind of laugh at who I was back then. Like, I look at it now, and the person I am now, I would have just been a lot more straightforward, not dealt with the crap, and just been like, yeah, well, you don't like this? Well, sorry, this is a decision and it's final. Whereas back then, Jeff and I, we had a little bit of a different philosophy amongst other moderators on our team. Some people were a lot more direct, like, okay, this is the decision we've made, this is what we've said, take it or leave it. Whereas Jeff and I would be like, come on, we try to be more diplomatic, like, come on, guys, you can do better than this. I know you're better. Whereas now, I would have been a lot more laissez-faire. Certain things that would have irked me, I would have just, like, not taken that as, let them slide. But yeah, overall, I think it helped me grow as a person and really taught me patience. And I've been on cyberspace since I was like 11 years old. I prefer cyberspace over meat space. And being on cyberspace since I was 11, it forces you to grow a
Metaverse.
spine. No, he stole that from a sci-fi novel. But this definitely helped me strengthen that spine, because if you're going to be a mod or any sort of position of power on the internet, any sort of content creator, you have to be ready for insults, jabs at you, light roasting. Like, yeah, it's going to hurt you're a human being, but you can't take it personally. So that's one thing that I really learned.
It's a good point you bring up, and I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper from like just my curiosity, because it's different for me since like I kind of started MG to be a moderator and like be in that space. But for you guys that weren't necessarily there from the get-go, you're obviously invested in some sort of ways, but how do you feel like moderating on MG changed you as a person, or if at all?
Yeah, I would say for me, to echo a little bit of what Laughing Man said, it does fundamentally change sort of your outlook on certain situations. So crisis management was something I learned a lot that I didn't really understand fully at the time when I first came on. Like I had certain ideas of, oh, if a conflict happens, I'm going to do this and this will happen. But then you start realizing that's not how the way the world works. You're going to be dealing with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different opinions, and just being diplomatic is really difficult. So I think MG sort of helped me put certain things in perspective, and you really have to put your own opinion and feelings aside when it comes to this sort of position. And again, and when we're talking about MG, I'm also talking about leadership in general, because I've held other leadership positions in organizations as well, and it's pretty much the same sort of approach. So learning how to be diplomatic and putting your feelings outside of it. But also on the question of like how it changed me, I think MG has definitely been like one of the biggest blessings of my life, without a doubt. And mainly that's because of the connections that I've made. Yeah, I mean that's only one part of it, but I would say that I have friends to this day who I met through MG, just random people online, and they have been my friends for the past 4 or 5 years. And I've invited those people to my wedding, and even at my wedding, there was the first time I've seen them. So it's kind of crazy to think about all these strangers that you're putting on this server together, and then one day you may form a really close relationship and bond with that person, and they're in your life forever. Foreshadowing.
So far, it's we're gonna segue to what you're talking about there, Jeff, real quick. But so far, all you guys have talked about with being moderators on the server, there's so much of it that sounds like being a parent. Sometimes you do end up being the bad guy. It's not about being the friend. It's about doing the right thing, upholding the right values, right principles. And I feel like a lot, like we kind of as Muslims have that responsibility in our lives anyway to do the best that we can as far as upholding those values and principles. But one thing I wanted to get clarification on, I know there was a distinction on mod and admin. So Laughing Man, when you say that you're an admin, what makes that different from being a moderator? Is it more like the boss of the mods, or?
So the difference is kind of, in all honesty, a little bit blurred, but in admin, it has to do with like Discord as a program and an app. So an admin has like full access to everything on the server, all the chats. If I wanted to, I could take away Jeff's moderation role, but he couldn't do the same to me, for example. He couldn't remove any of my roles. I can basically override his stuff. And 4 years ago, when I became admin and Jeff was selected as a mod, the structure of MG was also a little bit different. Because things were popping and we had so many people, we also had various other like administrative teams. So there was one team putting on events, game nights, tournaments with prizes. You had another team in charge of like coding bots for the server, like doing tech related stuff, making a potential website. And then you had other teams like attempting to, post stuff on social media, create content. Now, some of the things were successful and others kind of fell off because, again, no, this stuff is not a full-time job. We're all doing this like voluntarily in our free time because we love the community and we want to be a part of it. So a lot of those other things, and as the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic decreased and the world started opening up, people were less active on MG. A lot of people also grew up. They graduated from college, maybe got married, started having kids. So they don't have as much free time to spend on the server playing League or Valorant or Counter-Strike or Overwatch. So as people started becoming less active in MG, a lot of those other teams, they have gradually started, kind of falling into the wayside. And then eventually now it's the only thing that remains is the moderation team. But compared to 4 years ago, what we do nowadays is a lot more like lax, because the core people in MG are the people who are generally active, the older folks, some of the younger folks. And so a little core community has formed despite the server effectively being a lot deader compared to how it was 4 years ago. And as a result, people kind of know each other. They're all friendly with each other. They know each other's, they have banter. They know each other's boundaries. So there hasn't, Jeff, when's the last time we had to, actually mediate or step in, do something? People now have been kind of self-moderating themselves, which honestly, that's kind of a good thing.
That's super awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Should have told me 4 years ago.
I wouldn't believe it.
Impossible.
I wouldn't believe it.
Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
I was you kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've noticed examples where someone might say something or post something, and another user will be like, "Hey, bro, maybe you don't want to say that here. You want to DM that, or hey, maybe you should take it to this section. That'll be more appropriate there." So we haven't. The kids have grown up, and they're self-regulating. But yeah, the distinction between admin and mod is generally around the Discord function.
I see.
But aside from that, whenever we made decisions, 4 years ago, whenever big crises or fires happened and the mod team got together, okay, what do we do about this situation? Just because I was the admin, it doesn't mean I can override people's choices and be like, yeah, well, you guys outvote me, doesn't matter. I'm the admin. What I say goes, and that's final.
I haven't done that in the past. Y'all remember that.
Yeah.
So
man.
the distinction's honestly mostly over function, technical functions and stuff.
Yeah, MG's structure has changed, has evolved over time multiple times. It hasn't been static, and I've actually been a big proponent of that, because the community changes so often, right? So
I'm sorry, can you say that again? Did you say proponent or opponent? It wasn't clear.
Proponent. I encouraged that a lot. I encouraged us changing as the community changed, right? I didn't want it, even when I started this, I didn't want it to be a static thing that stays the same forever. When we had really high volume of things happening, we had a completely different structure, because we realized that the way we were currently operating didn't work, so we had to change it up. We had, once upon a time, there was a distinction between members. We had a shura function, we had a moderator function, and then we had a whole teams function, and that all came to it grew out of the community, because the community needed it. And I really like that about MG, is we adapt to what the community needs, right? And currently the community is pretty chill, so we're pretty chill. And if that changes in the future, MG will probably change in the future,
And
sounds like being a parent.
And kind of adding to the change, I've seen some older people on MG, kind of complain or nostalgize, the server used to be a lot more alive and poppin', people aren't here anymore. And if you asked me 4 years ago, that would have been bad news. I would have called Jeff late at night, Jeff, how do we convince those people to come back?
Yeah.
We're losing people. There's but now my philosophy is completely taken a 180. I look at it as, okay, a group of people who would have otherwise never crossed paths, they came to MG, they crossed paths, they became friends, maybe some of them became lovers, and then they left MG. Why is that a bad thing? They made friends along the way, and isn't that the whole purpose of MG, to help foster
It's the
friendships.
journey, not
Exactly.
the destination.
Exactly, community.
For those on
So,
the audio
Yeah,
version,
like I remember us talking about like, you know, these like sister servers, you can call them, like MG sister servers that started popping up. Offshoots. So what started happening, for those that are not familiar, is, you know, obviously cliques formed and people became, you know, got friends. They picked who they liked and became closer friends. And so, and to kind of avoid the broader MG, they started creating their own offshoot servers with their friends that they liked. And initially, like, we were like, what is this going on? Like, why are they creating this? Like, why are they just not on MG? Like, they're taking activity away from us. Like, you know, what's wrong? And we really we tried to pull them back in, and that did not work out at all. And that was definitely a learning experience for all of us. And now we're kind of like, oh, it's cool. If you come here, you found you know, your community, and then you wanted to create like a little offshoot for yourself because that's all you wanted. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's sort of like just like a
I'm
net
happy.
positive that you got from the experience at the end of the day.
And looking back, I'm thinking, I'm like, that's what we wanted, right? Like, I don't know why we opposed it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Honestly, maybe we were just clouded in our power in that time or whatever. But
that is one of the things I regret, because I was like,
yeah,
activity. There has to be activity.
Yeah,
it's like
and we were so focused on
Yeah.
activity at the time,
Yep.
right? And it's so dumb. It was so stupid because we were doing what MG should be doing for people, is connecting people to a community, connecting friends, and then that's all they needed, and they got it and they left. That's okay, and they still come back from time to time, or like keep tabs in. Some people do, some people don't, and that's fine, right? It's not, you don't have to be at MG forever. Like, actually, if you're still here forever, don't worry about you.
What are you trying to say about me?
Well, you're locked in. You put a ring on it, so
I think he's worried about himself because he's been here the longest.
yeah. I need to. Yeah.
Well, I will say that at least I'm not the type that got married and left.
Whoa!
Ooh,
Yeah.
shots fired.
I feel like
Shots
Marriage.
I
fired.
feel like that was
change.
aimed at someone. I feel like that's aimed at someone that I don't understand.
It's a
who
lot
aimed
of
at.
people.
It's a lot of folks. There's no particular.
He didn't aim it at a single person. He just took like a grenade and just threw it into a crowded room.
If you know, you know.
I feel like we're gonna get a lot of responses and spicy replies to this podcast.
And
episode.
just to bring up, that's fine. If you got married on MG,
Yeah, I know. I don't want it to be.
Alhamdulillah. At least
Exactly.
I'm happy MG facilitated that for you. They found you a life partner. Like, what greater, like, dude, Muslim, like, there's entire like dating apps that like hope to achieve what MG achieved without even wanting to achieve it.
Without even
I
trying.
actively to this day discourage people going to MG to find a partner. It's not a place. Like, you should not be coming to MG to find a life partner. If you happen to find one, that's amazing. But if you're going in with the expectation like, oh, I'm looking to get married, you're going to be so disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, and since we're talking about it, I guess we'll open the can of worms. But what Abdul or Blood Money is referring to here is that I myself found my wife on MG, and for the record, again, like Blood Money said, I want no one to take this out of context. I did not join MG to find a wife. I will repeat that again. I did not join MG to find a wife. All right, that's number one. But when you meet someone who, you know, you click on all those certain levels, and MG has, of course, facilitated that for not just me, by the way. There was at least, I would say,
Hold on. We did not facilitate that for you.
No,
Just-
I didn't
I
mean it
wanna
like
make
that.
that
I
clear.
meant like the server, in a way, allowed it to happen.
For the record, when I roasted Jeff constantly in front of his wife before they were even talking. This I will take a slight jab here, Jeff. Sorry. He dips his hot Cheetos in almond milk. And
What's the
he
problem
got her to
with that?
try it. Yeah. He also uses
lot.
light mode. He
He
also
uses light mode on Discord.
Yep.
I think we can have a separate episode just to
dedicate-
The
to-
mental
to dedicate
stability of Jeff.
the mental
Yeah.
stability and the enigma that is Jeff.
It'll be the Jeff therapy session.
But in all seriousness, like, yeah, it did. Like I said, Jeff joined as a troll, just to, post nonsense and see how fast he could get banned. And then, he met a person, and it kind of organically happened, as it did with, what's the count?
I
stopped
think it was
keeping
around
count.
8
What
or
is it at?
9.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, but I would also echo what Blood said before. Please do not come with the intention of marriage to MG. Again, this is something that you need to pray istikhara for on your own, and like make sure that you have your life together, and you shouldn't be seeking it in these type of forums. But of course, if it happens organically,
some people have come onto MG with that intention, and they've been very disappointed. And I've told that, I'm like, this is not the forum. There are better forums for you than this.
I kind of want to circle back a little bit too, because it was just a kill question I had about the whole moderation journey in general, if you guys don't mind. Because Abdul, I know you were also involved in that responsibility quite a bit as well. I'm curious, I know, because it sounds like we're in like a new era for MG, as far as, because I feel like there have been different eras. It's almost like we're in the third age of Tolkien equivalent for the Discord server. What would you say is like the most common thing or instance or situation where you would need to step in as a moderator, if there is one?
Trolls.
Yeah, trolls is a pretty big one.
Trolls.
People will make fake accounts,
Always.
come in, or there'll be some extremist who's trying to get the server banned, or get the FBI, coming in.
Yeah.
You have your troll baits coming in all the time, but I would say a pretty common one, and again, this was more in peakish MG, but conflict resolution was probably the biggest one. Like, you would see a disagreement or a debate between two people, and it would get out of hand, name calling, and
it's not happening as much anymore.
No, I would say we're definitely most people are well behaved now.
Kids have grown.
Yeah.
Kids have grown.
And it's super hard because like MG it's global, right? And anybody from the world can come and join. So you have so many different like thoughts and like lifestyles coming together. What might be offensive to one set of group is not offensive to another group. I think a while back we had this, like, there's some Australian folks that were riffing on they were using the R word a lot, and a lot of people got offended, and they were like, why are you guys offended by this? Like, this is not something we care about. But there's a huge people that were offended by it. It's one of those like cases where it's very difficult. I'm not gonna say we haven't solved it. MG has definitely not solved it. We're still learning, and it's kind of like this impossible task of trying to meld and bring a common ground to people that don't see eye to eye fundamentally.
Yeah, so looking forward to hearing more about your moderator journey. I feel like it's going to be mostly the same for the upcoming future, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. But I feel like we've talked so much about the Muslim Gamers podcast and haven't really talked as much about the actual games that we play. So I think it might be a good place to start into that. But kind of in a related note, I wanted to congratulate Nael because he has a new addition to his family. And I am, of course, talking about his Steam Deck.
I was getting the Mabrooks ready.
So literally after we stopped recording last time, it arrived. My sister got it for my birthday. So I've been tweaking, playing with it, messing around.
Chef, I think that still deserves some Mabrooks.
Mabrooks.
It's not.
OLED models?
I honestly have no idea. Actually, I have the paper here. It doesn't say. So I don't know.
What storage?
I don't know.
512, 256.
I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I just installed a couple of games and just dove in. I'm like, I'll deal with the modding later. Let me just play.
Yeah. So what are you playing now? What has your experience been on it so far?
I threw on Broken Age and Fallout 3. Yeah, 3. Because I haven't played Fallout 3 ever. No, I started it a long time ago, but I never finished it. Yeah, Fallout 3
Great
is
game.
great. So I wanted to
great
actually
place to play,
finish the
too.
game.
Mhm.
So Broken Age is pretty fun. It's like it starts kind of innocent. There's two sides of a story. It's very visual novel esque.
It was made by Double. No, was it Double Fine?
Yeah, Double
Double
Tim
Fine.
Fine.
Schafer.
Double Fine, amazing studio. I love everything they put out, pretty much.
Also owned by Microsoft.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
But it was fun. It was. I think I played it within. I think it's like a 10, 12-hour play.
Oh wow! I didn't know it was that long.
Well, I don't know. I can't tell for certain because sometimes, like when you leave the Steam Deck, I think it keeps counting the time. So I have no idea how much time I actually put. But it was a fun game because it starts kind of innocent and the story gets a little bit sinister and closes kind of on a high note. So it's a fun story game if anyone wants to play that. And then Fallout, obviously classic. Starting to get into that, and then for nostalgia's sake, I threw on Pajama Sam. Humongous entertainment for anyone out there who was in the humongous entertainment era. The Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, all those games. So Pajama
So
Sam.
for those of us that don't know what Pajama Sam is,
Faraj, I'm surprised you don't know.
one
Did you
thing
ever
to
play
keep in
like
mind about me.
backyard sports?
Does Monkey Island?
Are you
count?
talking about backyard sports as in like actual backyard sports?
No, the game,
No,
like
like-
No, the
backyard
game.
soccer,
No.
backyard. Okay, so
Oh,
it's
man,
like
you
there's
missed
this
out.
one, bro. You missed out. You really did.
missed
So
out.
I don't know if it was
There
more
was
of
a
an American
studio.
thing because I grew up outside of America.
Oh.
for a good
Gotcha.
part of my
Okay,
life.
fair
Okay.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can't
Weirdo.
hold that.
No,
I
just
can't hold
kidding.
that. So yeah, there was a studio, Humongous Entertainment, and they were big in like kids media. Like I think
Mhm.
they turned into like Sierra or something, and then
Okay.
eventually they went away. But you can still find their games. I think they Scum VM. I think that's how they kind of repurpose it, so
Okay.
people can play. But yeah, like you can play all these old nostalgia games from your childhood, and it's fun. They still hold up. I think as a 30+ year old, it's just fun to play. That and then I was on the Switch a little bit because my nieces and nephews were over, so we played some Mario Party, Mario Kart. I still had to spend my Nintendo credit on the second game, so I used it on Pokemon Violet, and I started
Which
playing
starter
it a
did
little
you pick?
bit.
Why
Which
did you
starter?
do that?
Is it too late to request a refund?
I haven't picked my starter yet because I don't know.
Oh,
Okay, then
The last
request a
Pokemon
refund.
game I played was Crystal.
Listen, you
I
should have
don't
got
know.
Wow.
I
you should
haven't
have got
watched
Legends.
Pokemon
You should have got
past,
Legends
like-
Arceus instead.
No,
Nael?
I have it. I haven't
Niall,
played it
listen
yet.
to me. Listen to me carefully. Don't listen to these guys. The game's performance is shoddy, but story-wise, it's my new most favorite Pokemon game. It
Okay.
What are
gets
you
very.
smoking?
Have you played?
The last
Violet
Yes,
like
I
I said,
played Violet.
The
Yeah,
last
the-
Pokemon game I played was like on a Game Boy Advance. I haven't
Yeah,
played
the
any
story
Pokemon
gets
games since
very dark, very like without spoiling too much. It gets very transhumanisty, which I
then.
love.
Okay,
Like
interesting,
so.
fun.
You'll see. Enjoy.
All right. I'm
Performance
in
is
for the ride.
kind of though. I will
but
give you that.
who cares? It's a Switch game, like we said.
True.
Yeah, you're not playing on the Switch for the
I'm
performance.
not
And
playing
don't
on the
listen to
Switch.
what I said.
I'm
I'm just
not-
going off
okay,
I'm
of
not
the
playing
news.
on the
there's a
Switch
difference
for hardware. I'm
between playing a PlayStation 1 game on the Switch and an actual Breath of the Wild type Switch game. Okay. There's a
Okay.
difference.
Damn.
And you're
I
playing
see-
PlayStation 1
I understand what you're
games
saying.
when you're playing Pokemon Violet. I think,
You
actually,
are.
no.
You-
PlayStation 1 games are probably better than Pokemon Violet.
Abdul has been deeply hurt.
Kingdom Hearts and Pokemon just
And it's
betrayed
showing.
him. Like his
The
childhood
Trigger
heroes.
words.
They really have.
betrayed
Really
him.
have.
Is anyone keeping a list of all the trigger words for Abdul?
Kingdom Hearts, Pokemon.
Pokemon.
MG marriage.
It's a trigger for me as well.
I'm a little curious.
That is
now.
ironic.
Going back to the yeah, that is ironic, Jeff. But going back to the Steam Deck, what's
Yeah.
your experience been on the Steam Deck so far? How do you?
It's fun. Like I mean, I've had the Switch. It's just basically that, just a little heavier in terms of physical feel and jumping in, jumping out. Like
Because you
it's
haven't had
nice.
much of a chance to tinker with it as
No,
much,
I
right?
haven't started tinkering with it. I just like I have so many games on my library, bro. I'm like, let me, and because I am someone who sometimes has a game, has a system I can play on. Sometimes I don't. It just depends. Because I go through computers here and there. Because for those who don't know, I edit videos and things like that. So sometimes I have a machine, sometimes I don't. You know, it just kind of depends. Sometimes I have a graphics card, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on the day.
Sometimes he's playing on Mac.
Sometimes I'm playing on Mac. So I have a variety of gaming experience in that, like a diverse experience like that. So I'd play whatever opportunity, you know, based on whatever kind of console I have at that time, or PC or Mac or whatever.
Now I was
And
trying to
yes,
hit the diversity quota by
yeah,
playing
I
on
am.
Mac.
I am.
You know?
I have, and it's okay. It's an okay experience. It's not great, but it's okay. It gets the job done
Better than
when
nothing.
you want to play something. But yeah, so that's kind of the perspective I'm coming from for the
Okay.
podcast in general,
I-
I guess.
Yeah,
The
I think
voice
my
of the Mac gamers and people on Switch and people playing nostalgic games and whatever time they can fit in to squeeze in some gaming time.
Hey,
I
apparently
think
the new iPhones are gaming phones. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get a cool, you know, what's it called? A
the
liquid cool
backbone.
my Pixel next week, so then I
Nice.
can play some, you know,
ray trace
classic
cyberpunk.
cans. Yep, exactly.
I think I was my first piece of advice to you after you got the Steam Deck was not to get into tinkering, because that's what I
Yes,
did
and
once
I
I got
took it. I
mine.
took it to heart. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna worry about it, because
yeah.
once I'm like, all right, let's start doing it. I'll really get into it, because I've modded previous consoles. I'm not afraid. So I just, but at the same time, I don't want to get like stuck into that. You know, before I've even like started playing anything, and just let me just play before
Yeah,
I
my
worry
first
about all
2 weeks with my Steam Deck were just installing games just to see how they ran, and
that. Hmm.
I just tried out a bunch of different things. And once I got into tinkering and opened up the Epic Store on it with all the free games that I claimed through there, oof, that was a can of worms right there. Not it was a great can of worms, but
Yeah. Yeah, the one I need to figure out is getting Game Pass to work on it. So
that I think for that you actually need to get Windows on it,
I
which
have to get Windows and stuff.
yeah,
So
which I
that's why I'm
wouldn't.
like, I'm not in a rush
Yeah,
to figure
I
that
don't
out.
think it's recommended to do that anyway. But I think there is a great way to play like XCloud games on there, possibly because you
Yeah,
get the cloud streaming on it. So could be
you can
another.
also stream PlayStation games through
Yeah,
the Steam Deck. There's
I
a
have the X Cloud, so I
Yeah.
think I can just do it from the browser potentially. But anyway,
I think
that's
there's a Steam
something to
app you
figure out.
can purchase for that separately as well.
Oh,
Yeah, which I think is a little bit more seamless. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't had a chance to try it on myself.
okay.
Um, yeah,
I'll look into
uh,
it.
yeah. Abdul,
What are games that you guys liked on the Steam Deck?
what are games that I don't like on the
Blatro.
Steam Deck?
Oh yeah, Balatro,
Hades.
Hades.
so
Hades is
my
great.
Steam Deck, I made it into a glorified platformer, visual novel, and JRPG machine.
Makes sense.
So the upcoming Shin Megami Tensei Vengeance, perfect thing to play on the Steam Deck. I've been using it to Chrono Trigger, the recent Chrono
Mm.
Trigger. I played a little bit of it. I
Bravely
finished it.
Default 2. It's also
I
really good.
haven't
Mhm.
I haven't done that one yet. Oh, and if you install EmuDeck, you can like emulate a lot of like Game Boy Advance,
Mm.
NDS.
Allegedly.
It has allegedly, yeah, RetroArch, and yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Really opens up the possibilities there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
from what I
Appreciate the
hear.
advice.
Yeah, from what I hear, it's a great place to play PS2 era games
Mm.
because they run really well without from what I
Without
hear
much,
at least,
yeah.
without much drawn on the power and
Mm.
putting the too much strain on the Steam Deck. Great place to play Kingdom Hearts if you want.
Kingdom Hearts,
True.
another trigger word.
Handheld Kingdom Hearts. Think about that on the go.
I have,
Mhm.
I have Kingdom Hearts on the Switch, the streaming version. It
Mm,
actually runs okay.
okay. Yeah. Well, I have horrible. Well, I shouldn't
I
say.
feel like
horrible,
Niall's the type of
pretty
person that plays FIFA on the Switch.
Yeah. And
Wait,
bad. If that's the only console you have,
and
is
if that's the
FIFA
only
even on
console
the
you have,
Switch?
you say it like it's a bad
I
thing.
think it is. It's trash, like utter garbage.
but here's
It's
the
on
thing:
there.
So-
it doesn't matter. I'm playing. Other people are playing. We're having fun. Doesn't matter. When I want games to look nice, I'll put it on my PC. When I just don't care, I'm gonna play whatever.
Is
Ooh,
FIFA just
the-
another trigger word for you, Abdul? Or
No,
No,
FIFA's
no,
fine. Nothing wrong with
The
FIFA.
the other option, which it took me a little bit of tinkering to figure out, if you install a program called Sunshine on your desktop PC and then Moonlight on your Switch, and you enable port forwarding, I tested it out on a different network and stuff. I can run fully ray traced, path traced Cyberpunk on my desktop and stream it to my Steam Deck, and my Steam Deck is just streaming it. It's not running it natively.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
at a full 60 frames. But I wouldn't do that because who the hell plays a first-person shooter with a controller? Am I right?
sorry. Yeah, that's kind of how I like playing Cyberpunk, to be honest.
Oh,
Although
really? You play Cyberslunk on the controller?
so the driving. So here's the thing. As someone who rides a motorcycle, Cyberpunk is probably the closest that I've gotten to like really enjoying riding a motorcycle in, and it's horrible to do that on a mouse and keyboard.
That is
So
that is
having
fair.
to
I can-
switch
this is true.
between a mouse
Yeah.
and keyboard and a controller when I'm playing the game.
The driving
now-
in Cyberpunk is not.
Yeah,
great.
when I'm at my desk, yes, I play with the mouse and keyboard for the on foot section of it. But if I'm, just like what Laughing Man said, I have Sunshine with Moonlight set up on my stream on my Steam Deck as well, and I when I played Cyberpunk that way, I didn't mind a little bit of the controller with some of the aim assist as well. It's not really an FPS-y first person game. Like it's not like it doesn't require twitch reflexes, so it's
it's
okay. You can get away with not needing the precision of a mouse and a keyboard.
Just equip a
Mhm.
smart pistol and spec up the smart pistol perk tree, and you literally have an aimbot, and just
True.
queue up a bunch of quick hacks.
Yeah, I'm not really a smart pistol fan. I still like to try to aim with my stuff, but it's if you like aimbots. But hey,
So,
Laughing Man, why
Faraj,
don't you? Yes.
I was gonna since you were
Oh, you're
talking,
gonna
I
ask
was gonna
me?
say
Yeah.
what else have you been playing?
Well, let's hear Laughing Man go a little bit because I know you were getting into Assassin's Creed Shadows. It sounds like you're playing a more similar game to that
Yeah.
that just recently released.
So I don't know about you guys. The way I go about with hobbies and especially creative mediums and stuff is my rule is one TV show, one novel, and one game at a time. For me, when I play a game, read a book, or watch a TV show, I get super immersed in it. Like straight up, the line between reality and fantasy kind of blurs because I really get into one of my hobbies is creative writing, and I'm also into tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade. So I really get into the characters, like the story, all of that. So I can't juggle or rotate around several story heavy games at a time. I get what I call mood whiplash and like tonal whiplash. So yeah, currently, the last big game I played was Baldur's Gate 3, which my first playthrough took about 245 hours. A lot of that was because I was reading every book scroll I came across and then cross-referencing it with my D&D 5th edition modules. Like, oh my god, this talks about mind flayers and dragons. Ooh, let me check my monster manual. After that, I took a break, played some smaller games, a little bit of a palate cleanser. So I played Chrono Trigger and this visual novel Vampire Masquerade game. And then once Ghost of Tsushima released, that's the main game that I'm playing right now. I finished the main game a couple days ago. It didn't take too long. It was about 60 hours, but I did do all the side quests, all the optional objective stuff. And it's not like I went out of my way to do it. I would just explore an area and be like, oh, this is interesting. Let me go investigate this. Ghost of Tsushima basically takes the Ubisoft formula where there's a bunch of collectibles or stuff on the map, but it kind of naturally guides you towards it. There isn't a map marker. There's like that guiding wind mechanic. So it's very immersive. And it is one of the most photogenic games I've ever played. The photo mode alone, I would basically take photos and compose like pseudo haikus, because it's just so beautiful. Now, the story and the characters, I wouldn't say they were necessarily mind blowing. If you've watched any classical Japanese cinema samurai film, it is kind of along those tropes. But I did like, I'm not going to go into the spoilers, obviously, but there is a conflict, and I think I can relate to this as a Muslim. There is a big theme of the conflict between old traditions and how much of that you keep and how much of that you move away and adapt with new traditions, which I thought that's really interesting, and that's something I could relate to and reflect on as a Muslim. So currently I'm finishing up the DLC, the Iki Island DLC, which isn't that big. I think I'm like halfway, 60% done. And then after that, my plan is to start a new character in Elden Ring. I beat it when it came out, 2 years ago? Because that DLC expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree, is coming up. And from what I've read, I'm trying to avoid major spoilers, but apparently it's almost the size. People are saying that
That's the main thing I've heard about it. So it's basically the size of the main game.
it's almost
the
like
base
a
game.
new Elden Ring, game in of itself. That's how massive it is.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So yeah, that's what I've been up to after Ghost of Tsushima. I'm going to prep myself for the Elden Ring DLC, because at the same time, I don't know how much of you guys have played Elden Ring, but the hardest boss in the game is the infamous Melania Blade of Mikola. And according to an interview, Miyazaki said that the DLC will have bosses equal to her level difficulty, if not harder. So, a little excited and also terrified. Like, this man just keeps on cooking and finds new ways to torture players. And we keep coming back to it.
You masochists.
Listen, as a dad, that does not get me excited. I do not find joy in playing a fight for the 20th time, trying to figure out the mechanic.
That
I
is
only
totally
have so much
fair.
time. I only have so much time to play. I can play 20 hours to beat a boss, or I can finish an entire game in 20 hours. You know? I'm not saying it's not satisfying, but it's just, I don't know.
Laughing Man, I think we got into this a little bit on Discord chat, but
Yeah.
I actually had my game modded a little bit for on Elden Game to add just a little bit more easiness.
Same.
What what I found was that playing it on easy kind of takes away the soul of the game. Like, it takes away the main defining. Like, for me at least, for both Sekiro and Elden Ring, I felt like if the difficulty is all there is to the game, or I felt like the difficulty is a huge chunk of it, maybe not all of it, but a huge, like, maybe like 60% of its identity comes from
Yeah.
the difficulty, and the rest of it is just from the weird lore that doesn't look like George R. R. Martin had much to do with, but his name was heavily featured in the marketing.
George R. R. Martin, he created the background lore. Like, here's the universe. Here are the characters. Here's
And then everyone else just kind of went wild with it.
And then what he says is he made the background lore. Here's the goddess. Here's the various demigods. And then Miyazaki took that and he's like, okay, nice setting. Thanks, George. I'm going to desecrate the setting and destroy everything. And when George says in an interview, when he saw the final product, he was shocked. He was like, I made these characters. This is like the family tree. And yeah, they turned it into like complete dark fantasy. Yeah, difficulty is like a large part of it. I will admit, I only got into Souls games like, almost 10 years ago. Before that, I disliked them. I was like, how can people play this? What are you, masochists? But then one day, it took me 2 tries to get into Dark Souls 1 in 2 different years. And then one day it just clicked and I found like a rhythm. And I'm going to say that the games, a lot of people love, the FromSoft community is a little insufferable. They love to be the whole get good and get good scrub. You're playing it wrong. But the games, they're not difficult. Like, they're not unfair. It's more about learning patience, learning patterns. That's what it is. but sometimes that can take a long time. If you want
You're
unfair
telling me
games,
those sniper crabs are not unfair?
you don't have to fight them, bro. Just run past them.
They wreck you. They're snipers. You just.
Okay,
Anyways.
if you want unfair, let's talk about battle. We're not going to talk about Battletoads, but or the old Lion King on the SNES. That's
Okay,
unfair.
yeah.
But
as a kid back then, it was different.
I would say the thing about Elden Ring is the lore is every Souls game, the lore is very vague on purpose because fun fact, Miyazaki when he grew up, he would try to read English fantasy novels, but he didn't fully understand English. So he would read one page and he would be like, I don't understand half of it. I'm going to use my imagination to fill in the blanks. So that's where the vague minimalistic lore storytelling of Elden Ring comes in and the Souls games because his philosophy is I want the community to come together, analyze the story. Kind of like this is basically how historians analyze history. They look at primary texts. They don't know like, oh, it says, okay, one guy said this thing, this one metal shield says this. And they kind of try to piece together history. That's how a lot of history before like the written word came about. That's how they piece it together. So it's kind of a similar vein, and the music is phenomenal. Every Souls game, the music and the boss fights are phenomenal. So that's kind of largely what keeps people going. Although I will go, even though I've beaten all three Dark Souls, the only ones I haven't played are Bloodborne because obvious reasons, and I haven't played Sekiro. And Lies of P wasn't made by FromSoft, but that's another one that's on my list. I don't think if they added an option for an easier difficulty, slightly easier, they don't have to make it like baby easy. I don't think that's such a big deal. I know a lot of people that's like a controversial opinion. Because my thing is, one, you don't have to play on that difficulty, first of all. And some people even say the games are already quote unquote easy enough. And people do all sorts of weird challenges. There's one Twitch streamer, she beat Melania using a dance pad. There's another, that same Twitch streamer, she decided to take it a step further. She played 2 copies of Elden Ring, one on the PS5, one on her PC, one using a dance pad, one using a PS5 controller at the same time. She's insane.
Those people are insane.
Yeah. But then they're Twitch streamers,
it.
So they do this insane. For a living.
I think there's one that beat the boss using a level 1 character.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. On New Game Plus 7, on each New Game Plus, the difficulty gets higher. She beat it on New Game Plus 7, which is the highest with a level 1 character. Yeah.
That's insane.
So, I don't see anything wrong. Now, some people might say, well, why do you need easy mode? If you find the game difficult, you don't have to play it. Not every game is for you. I think there's like a communal experience. Like with Elden Ring, I remember playing it when it came out. Everyone was like posting about it on social media, like, yo, I just beat this boss. Like sharing in that joy when a new game comes out. They're like right now, I don't play Destiny, but I'm seeing a lot of my friends post about the final shape. And a part of me is like, oh man, I don't like MMOs, but I kind of wish I did. I want to be a part of that experience, sharing that joy and happiness.
Destiny is not an
MMO light, FPS MMO light. So yeah, I personally wouldn't care if they added like an easier difficulty. I'd still play on the normal difficulty if they did such a thing. But yeah, and some people might look at you guys like, oh my god, you modded the game, how dare you? You guys paid for the game, you own it. You have the right to do whatever you want with that piece of software. So yeah.
I think Rise of Ronin, that was a PlayStation exclusive, came out recently. It's also called a Souls-like. It's not from software. I think it was
Team Ninja.
Was it Team Ninja? Yes, I always get Team Ninja and Ninja Theory mixed up.
They're the guys who made Ninja Gaiden
and Neo.
Yep.
Neo and Neo 2. It actually comes with an easy mode, and that's kind of saw that as something a little bit more,
right?
Yeah, still a Souls-like.
The combat is Souls-like. It doesn't have the whole respawning enemies thing, but the combat is very much like stamina, managing stamina, attacks, parrying, all that stuff.
Yeah, so that I'm looking forward to the release of that on PC. So we'll see how that goes. Why don't we move to Jeff if you want to tell us a little bit more about what you've been playing, other than Valorant?
Yeah,
because I can see you have that the
I
Valorant gun
do. I
behind
do.
you.
I'm glad you recognized it. But
I think it actually says
yeah,
Valorant. That's
That's
the
what that
reason I
is?
knew.
yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, I never played the game, so
Jeff, how much did that cost you? Out of
It was a
curiosity?
gift, so I don't know. Everything
Oh.
back there is my gift.
That's what they say when they don't
No,
want to
it's
tell
like
you how much it
a
costs.
it's a gift thing behind me, like all of those stuff. But yeah. Aside from being a degenerate League of Legends player, I also have been. My sister let me borrow her PS5 recently, which is pretty exciting.
oh nice.
Yeah, so I've been trying to go through a lot of these like nostalgia lane for me. So I recently beat Final Fantasy X, which is an awesome relived experience for me. And also went through all the Uncharted games, 1 to 4. It's kind of crazy. Like I
Great
beat
games.
them within like a day, like 2 days, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
I mean,
games.
absolutely amazing. One thing that I didn't notice though,
All 4, you beat him
in
in a
like
couple
2 days.
days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's how you should. That's how you do it.
But that's the
how you
thing.
do
Like,
it.
what made me,
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous of you for being able to do that within a couple.
Right? There's no way I could do that now.
yeah, I mean, it was sad though, because when I was going through it, I sort of wish like my memory could be wiped and I can play them for the first time again. Because I remember my feeling when I was a kid, like, yo, this is insane. Like, for those games of that time, for me at least, was like way ahead of its league. So it was fun playing them through again, but I was like, damn, I finished these way too fast, and I'm kind of like disappointed. So that's why Final Fantasy X is kind of fun because it took me about a week to beat that. I also want to run through some of the older ones. Like I don't know if you guys have played Shinobi on PS2 a long time ago. Very
I
underrated
remember
game.
the name.
I don't think I have.
Is Shinobi the one where you're like constantly losing a little bit of health?
No, so you're like the guy with the long. He's like a ninja, and he has like a long scarf that's behind you the whole time, and it follows you.
Okay, I thought part of the lore was that the sword that you have is like slowly eating away at your soul or something. That's the only that and the scarf are the only thing I remember about.
Then yeah,
Shinobi.
I think you might be right. That was part of the lore. Yeah, but yeah, that was a difficult game as well.
If he doesn't kill enemies, his like health slowly
That's what
depletes.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's definitely one I want to get into next. Ami Nusha is another one that
Animusha.
sorry. Yeah, that's another one I want to replay. I remember playing that as a kid. And of course, old school RuneScape has been my guilty pleasure, coming back and forth to it. Yeah.
Do you play any of the leagues on OSRS?
Yeah, I played in the most recent one. It's pretty fun.
Leagues and OSRS. What's that?
It's like a separate game mode.
SRS is old school RuneScape.
Yeah, it's like a
seasonal thing. Think like Diablo. They have like a seasonal thing. You make a new character.
entirely
Right.
different
It's kinda like
world
a
that has
rogue-
nothing to do with your main account. It's like a separate game
Okay,
mode.
so just like seasonal Diablo that I'm familiar with. Okay,
And it's a bit like isn't it kind of like a roguelike where your gear drops are all random and you have to make do with whatever.
Yeah,
you
it's like
have?
playing on a private server that's been like hacked, and like you get like double XP or triple XP for everything you do.
okay.
Yeah, it's a fun little game mode.
How long does it run for? Like
It's
what's
usually
the
around
time
3
frame?
months. Yeah, because everyone's trying to become like the rank 1 player in those moments. But OSRS is one of those games. Again, a 99, like one skill to get to 99, max it out, could take you like a year if you're not playing consistently. It's a very grind heavy game.
Cool. Sounds pretty exciting. Abdul, why don't we talk about what you've been playing?
Sure. I'm chipping away at Baldur's Gate still. And like Laughing Man said, it's a monster of a game. It's going to take me a while. Other than that, I finished Persona 5 Royal on PC.
Nice.
Finally. Took me like 2 years, but it's there. Now I'm going to move on to Persona 3 remake, which I'm excited about. And then also on the deck, I've been playing Power Chord. It's a roguelite deck builder. I've been kind of in the deck builder mood these past few days. Think like Slay the Spire, but it's got like a punk rock aesthetic. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Have you heard of
It's-
Monster Train?
Yes.
Have you played that one?
It. No, I have not played it.
Okay, because it's another like card roguelike. I haven't tried it myself, but heard
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah, Paraguay. It's simple. It's not gonna be like blow you away or anything like that. But it's good mindless fun when you want to. That's all I got.
Cool. So for games I've been playing, um, I tried out the demo for this game called Mini Shoot Adventures. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that at all. I heard it on a separate podcast where the way they described it is it's a twin stick shooter that'll remind you a lot of old school Zelda on the NES, like the very first one. And yeah, that's pretty accurate as a description. You start out with just your ship. I think you're able to just have like a very basic fire, but there's also elements of like being able to level up and get more advanced skills and abilities with your ship. The demo was pretty fun. I definitely encourage people to go check it out. I have it added to my wish list, so waiting for it to go on a sale for me to grab that.
It's
And
like a little like roguelike dungeon crawly.
it's no, it's not roguelike. It's story based. You're in this like open world-ish type of 2D top-down world. Plays quite a bit like the old school 2D Zelda, where you're moving from like one screen to another. But it doesn't lock you down to that one screen. The main gameplay is like a 2D or like a 2D twin stick shooter. You move with one
Gotcha.
stick and you're able to
Aim with the
shoot
other.
with the other
Yeah.
with the other stick on your on a controller. They have a lot of accessibility options too, where when you're shooting, you can either have auto fire and auto aim turned on, so it makes it a lot easier. So uh, it's or you could have it just the difficulty scaled up to be as challenging as you want it to be for yourself. So definitely a very interesting game that I checked out. I think deserves a mention and a shout out. Um, the new season of the show called Blood of Zeus came out on Netflix. I really enjoyed the first season. I rewatched the first season and I was
I
watching
didn't
it
like
through.
it. I have a hot take on that. I didn't like Blood of Zeus.
It's not great. It's not a show that I would even recommend. It's more of a show I kind of watch as a guilty pleasure that
Yeah,
I
I
enjoy.
never
I know
talked about it
people.
with anyone, but like I watched it myself, and I was like,
It was okay.
it kept me entertained, and something I would just watch again.
I just think the story was kind of trash.
Story is nothing to write home about. I like the animation style. I think it's funny to see the petty arguments and drama that these quote unquote gods have. And of course, the more I kept watching that show, the more I just wanted to play Hades. So that's a game I've been getting back into. I put a lot of time on it on my Switch at first, but then since getting my Steam Deck, I haven't put in as much time on it there. So I've been playing it there quite a bit. And it takes, with a little bit of tweaking, I can actually get a lot of battery life for that game. So that's a game I've been.
Have you beaten it? Have you
having
gotten the actual ending?
No. On the Switch, I only got to fighting Hades twice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get the actual ending. It's actually pretty.
Yeah.
pretty
It just takes
Yeah.
time. Which
Yeah.
as a parent, not always the easiest thing to get.
Takes time.
And it's funny what you were mentioning at first, Laughing Man, about how you have this rule of trying to stick to just one piece of media at a time per category to be immersed in. I have the exact opposite problem called video game ADHD. I could go on about all the different games that I've dabbled in and played, but I want to keep the podcast short, the episode short, so I'm only talking about 3 of the games that I played. And I've been watching another show on Netflix as kind of a guilty pleasure called SWAT, which it's definitely not a great show. It's just I just like police procedural dramas, and it's been making me want to play Ready or Not, which is a slow-paced tactical first-person shooter with a lot of non-lethal options. You're mostly put in urban settings. The first level, you're going through like a gas station / diner to take down guys that have barricaded up the place. And the second level is pretty interesting, where it's a streamer that is like live streaming this hostage takeover of like his mom or something. That's pretty interesting. It's a very interesting game where it puts you in the boots of a SWAT officer, giving you lots of options for non-lethal ways to take down your suspects. And what's funny is you start out the game in a police station that has all these posters of like, you can get help. Domestic violence is not okay. Don't like. It has all these posters that look like it looks like the devs really put a lot of did a lot of research on like what it looks like inside a police station. And one of the things I read about or like watched a video on for the game was that it can trigger a lot of PTSD for actual police officers or people that have been in these types of situations. So I'm kind of playing it a little bit, keeping that in mind as well. Not that I've been in a situation like that yet, knock on wood, thankfully. But it's definitely a very interesting game that's out there right now.
I have some good friends who play it, and I've seen them. It's not my type of game, but I've seen them like stream it. Yeah, isn't like the camera footage? It's from like the perspective of body cam, and so it looks very realistic when you're like moving the character. Everything, and there's no HUD. There's no HUD like in a traditional FPS. You only know if you're low on health because like there's blood splats and stuff. So yeah, it's very
by
like
default,
realistic sim, right?
By default, the play is more like just the FPS game. Your camera is just like a regular first-person camera. You do have a little indicator of like what part of your body is injured, and it'll give you prompts like press a button to stop bleeding and stuff like that. I think your friends might have been playing with mods because I saw a body cam mod for Ready or Not, and it looks absolutely insane. Like it looks like I'm watching body cam footage on YouTube. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have here. I think that's a good good place to end the show. We've talked about quite a bit in this episode. Jeff and Laughing Man, it was really great to have you guys on this episode. I'm hoping you guys can continue on in our future episodes as well as regular, guests / hosts. I'd like to see you guys, in a more of a host / panel role. Nael, Abdul, thank you guys for joining as well. I'm glad we were able to get some really good discussions here. If you're watching this or listening to us, you probably already know where to find us. But if you don't, on YouTube, we'll have all of our links down in the description. But we have the YouTube channel up now. We're posting all of our full episodes there. We're working on getting out shorter clips for social media. So once those are up, we'll definitely keep you guys posted. The episode's obviously going to be linked on the Discord for sure, and on any podcast platform that you used to listen to your podcast, you'll definitely find us there. Just search for Muslim Gamers. There might be a glitch where our podcast is showing up twice, but it will probably be only the first episode once the second episode goes up. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get that fixed, but shouldn't be too hard to find us there. Guys, do you have anything else you want to add?
Oh, yeah, nothing.
I would just say, like, encouraging you guys who are watching to, leave comments, because we really want to know, are there certain specific topics you guys want us to talk about?
Some of those meteor discussions.
I'm sure you guys have follow-up questions on some of those dramatic topics. But, but overall, it's just a pleasure being on this episode, and I appreciate you guys for having us.
Yes, to echo what Jeff said, definitely thank you for that reminder. Please give us some feedback. Let us know, how we're doing, and give us some ideas of the things that you'd like to hear us talk about as well. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having us.